Have you ever tried to calculate what your return on ProShop has been?
I don't have an ROI, but I definitely would say the the price for the employees that you would have to hire just to do what the system does for you is probably 3 to 4 times more what we're paying in a year.
Hmm.
And that's, every year then as well.
Welcome to the Manufacturing Transformed podcast, where we dive deep into the world of manufacturing and uncover the transformational journeys of companies that are powered by ProShop. Get ready to explore the stories behind the machines, the people, and the innovations shaping the future of this industry. Welcome to Manufacturing Transformed. Real shops, real stories.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Manufacturing Transformed. I just got off a very heartwarming call, I guess I'd call it, with Chris with Rise Industries, a shop in Pennsylvania. And boy, we had a fun time. So, Rise Industries is about 4 years old, just almost exactly to the day almost. They have, I think he said, 11 CNC machines, 8 people, and have already hired a VP of sales last year and is just their ISO and AS and 1345 certified. So they are really going for it. And this was a really neat conversation because we first learn, Chris's background and how he's been able to, grow quickly after he left the business he had worked at for so many years and decided to go out on his own. The fact that he hired a bunch of previous coworkers that had scattered to the winds in other shops and they all wanted to come back and work with him, is indicative of just the person he is and how he's been able to attract those guys who are all really rock solid machinists and setup guys and programmers. So that's an incredibly valuable asset to have and enables growth. Uh, but then he got ProShop pretty early after he had designed a bunch of Excel spreadsheets and thought he had a great system. I'm sure they are great spreadsheets, but they're still just spreadsheets. So he learned about ProShop, got it, has really gone all in. Before we hit record, we were looking at all the modules he's using in ProShop, and it's pretty much all of them. He's in the tooling module. He's in all the quality modules. Of course, they're using all the parts and work orders and equipment for calibration and preventative maintenance and quality and just all the things. But then Chris shares about how they got AS9100, and then within 8 months they got both AS and 1345. And I won't spoil it, but something very exciting happened the day after they got their 1345. So yeah, this is just a good profile of a shop that's really doing all the right things to build an incredibly strong foundation and enable massive growth into the future. So it's cool to see Chris doing that. And let's go ahead and hear from Chris directly. Chris, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy day running a shop to come talk about it. So let's start by giving a little bit of background of you and the shop and why you're in business today and what do you do?
Yeah, so I started at a medical manufacturing company right out of high school. Um,
Cool.
I throughout high school was training to be a Volkswagen technician.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on cars my whole
Mm-hmm.
teenage years and, was hands-on. Um, but after high school, I kind of realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. And uh, I had taken metal shop throughout high school, but I wasn't really in any tech schools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I got hooked up with a local manufacturing company. Um, I ended up staying there for 18 years. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so when I started, I was, just a button pusher in the EDM department, just running parts, third shift. It was the only position that I could get was, third shift entry level. I think I was making like $10 an hour or something at that time. Um, and then kind of grew in the EDM department for a while, into doing some setup work and, harder work. And then moved into the milling department and, learned, 3, 4, and 5 axis mills. And then where I
Nice.
really kind of found my niche was in the turn milling world. So I kind of progressed through the different stages of, running, setup, and then into engineering and programming. For the last probably 8 years I was there, I was a manufacturing engineer in the milling and
Mm,
turn milling area. Um,
fantastic.
so I always kind of joked around about maybe one day starting my own place, and had an opportunity and kind of just went for it. Um, which was, crazy at the time because I had a very steady, well-paying job, um,
Yeah, sounds like it.
and, I just went for it with 2 machines and just me. Um, we had 1 job set up that we were gonna run that we actually still run today, um,
Mhm.
and I was kinda at the point where I was like, "I just want my 2 machines, just me," and kinda, you know, put
Nice
some of that.
lifestyle business.
Yeah. Um, but that didn't last very long. Uh, so as we started doing um, work for different customers and growing, I had to get some more help, which I had reached out to my best friend, who previously was also a Swiss engineer. Um,
Mm.
so he was coming and helping at nights and weekends. And now he's actually one of business partners with us. He
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Great.
bought into the company. So it's me, my brother, and my best friend who are the three owners of the business. Um, so with his Swiss background, we bought a Swiss machine.
Mhm.
Um, so at that time, we just had one lathe, one four-axis mill, and then one Swiss screw machine.
Mm.
Um,
And what years were these? I don't think we heard that.
we started in 22.
Okay,
Actually,
about 4 years ago.
yeah, 4/1/22, so exactly 4 years ago,
Okay.
was when I got the shop, but I had given my previous employer, like, a 3-month notice, 3 or
Okay,
4-month notice, so I
that's
really
nice of
didn't.
you.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, they were always good to me, and I didn't wanna leave them high and dry.
Yeah,
Um, so I kinda, told them my plans and what I was doing, and we still have a great relationship today. Um,
that's wonderful.
yeah, so 22 to 23 was pretty much just me. 23, Tyler started, helping and moving into the business. And
And
then
is that your brother or your best
so
friend?
that's my best friend.
Okay.
um, and then now we're up to 8 people. So I was able
Holy
to.
cow, good job.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it worked out well from people that I had worked with in the past that have gone to other places.
Mhm.
So everybody that I've hired so far, except for like one person I had worked with previously, and they had gone on to other shops. So we kind of, rekindled and
Mhm.
um, all know how each other work and know their skill sets. They're all very skilled setup technicians and programmers and stuff. So I was very fortunate to find, you know, the skilled people that I can trust and know how they work.
Well, you could say fortunate on one hand, but you could also say they wouldn't have come work for you if they didn't probably enjoy working with you and trust you from when you worked together.
Yeah,
So,
and it, it definitely goes both ways. It's great to have a shop full of people that one you can just hand something to and know it's going to get done right, but
mhm.
also two, not having to worry about any thing else with I don't know this person. sometimes, I'm out on the road doing this. I know that, they're just good, hardworking, good people.
Yeah.
Um,
That's amazing. That's wonderful because that is not what most shops can claim, especially starting up and hiring as many folks as you have, that they're all just rock solid people like that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
yeah. So, um, over 24 and 25, we bought, now I got to like look and count. So now we have four Swisses, um, five mills, three, four, and five axis, two lathes, and a CMM.
Okay, I'm not good at math. How many total is that?
So 12, including the CMM.
Okay.
11 CNCs in the CMM.
Wow, fantastic. That's a good ratio too. 11 CNCs and 8 people. So you keep those things cranking, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. We kind of, I guess we'll get into it more, have strategically turned or shifted our workflow and the work that we're trying to accomplish now. All of us being from the medical and aerospace background, that's more of the
Mm-hmm.
work that we're trying to go after,
Yeah.
which was not something that we could easily do in the beginning without having certifications to do that type of work, which I know we'll get into more as we
Yes,
move
for
along.
sure. Yeah.
um,
Okay. And so aerospace and medical, and the customers that you brought on, just tell us a little bit about how you found them and kind of that end of things.
yeah, so our first initial customers were some people that I've worked with in the past, and just some friends of people that we know. We were able to get into the shop. Also, my brother owns a company called SK Industrial that sells 3M products and tooling and coolant, and
Mhm.
so he's in a lot of different shops. So he was able to, slide my card to certain people when,
Nice.
selling his products. Um, and then last year, so about 8 months ago, probably now, we brought
Mhm.
on a VP of sales and marketing. So
Smart move.
yeah, kind of, we got to the point of I was doing as much as I could, but I couldn't bang down all the doors and keep up with, you know, the sales side of it and be here within, within the building.
Yeah.
So I was kind of stuck at a point where I had to pick one direction to go. I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go at that point. Um, but somebody that I previously worked with in the past as well was looking to make a change, and um, brought him on, and he's done a lot for bringing in new customers, and he also had a background in auditing and stuff, so he was able to help us get through our certifications.
Oh, great. That's a nice complementary skill set.
Yeah,
So, I'm glad you mentioned, you deciding where you're going to specialize, and you decided clearly to specialize more internally with operations and whatever else, and hired a professional salesperson, which is not an insight I think as nearly enough shop owners have, that they have to decide because they can't do all of it super well, um, and certainly not at you know at 8 people. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's definitely taken on obviously the salary of somebody to do that. That's that
Sure.
was a big uh, decision to make, but the I would just say I wish I would have done it sooner.
Mm.
Just 8 o'clock. If I come in the morning, once 8 o'clock hits, and the emails and the phones and like it's just almost impossible to get anything done here. And
Yeah.
with him handling all of that, it allows me to do so much more here than I was able to do previously.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, maybe even before with him added, can you share just your approximate sort of growth over the last few years, either percentages or dollars or whatever you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, so I think the first year, which was really like a half of a year,
Mhm.
we did probably like 200,000 in sales.
Mhm.
Um, and then every year after that, we've either doubled or over doubled. Um, with the exception of last year, we should have doubled, but we moved into a bigger building, which
Mhm.
I way underestimated that. So we should have shipped more than we did last year. We had the work to do it, but uh, I had thought, oh, we're gonna move the machines on Thursday, and by Monday we're gonna be back up and running. And
Yeah.
you don't realize how much stuff goes wrong when you move equipment. um, so last year we did about 800,000, and this year we have um, all, uh, we should do over 1.5. We already have currently we have about 900,000 in backlog, and
Mhm.
we've already shipped, you know 400,000. Um, and obviously there's a lot more to book well within this year.
Yeah, I got 8 months left.
Yeah.
So, okay, very good. Well, tell me a little bit about, how you stumbled across ProShop and what happened after that.
Yeah, so um, when I started the business and it was just me, a lot of everything was in my head. Um, and I had spreadsheets for everything, and I was actually very proud of my spreadsheets. Like, you know, I thought it was great at the time, but then as I added a person and another person, and we started getting more and more jobs, there was just a lot of stuff that was only I knew, right?
Mhm.
And I started realizing too, like, yeah, I had spreadsheets for schedules and buying material, but there was nothing documented for the fixtures that I used the last time or how something was picked up, right?
Yeah.
Um, so knowing from my previous background in a large company, I knew I needed to get an ERP system. Um, so I had searched through and looked at a couple different um, softwares, and my brother had one of his customers in, and they had mentioned that they used ProShop, and I at that
Mm, mhm.
time never honestly heard of ProShop. So this was probably early 2024.
'Kay.
Um, so I found your videos and podcasts and started listening, and um, went through like the introductory meeting with somebody that just went through what the system does, and
Mhm.
quickly realized that the system is designed for a, a manufacturing, a machining manufacturing company like we are, where
Mhm.
every other ERP system that I've either used or was looking at is not designed strictly for this business. Um, so it didn't take long for me to just realize this was the system that I wanted to go with. Um, so I believe we purchased ProShop in mid 24, and I had been, I believe in October, I had a recert for our ISO 9001. So
Mhm.
we had gotten ISO 9001 with all the spreadsheets and everything.
Yep.
Um, so we purchased it, but didn't really use it for the first couple months. I just was kind of messing around with it.
Hmm.
And then like the day after our audit, we, went all in and tried
That
to
makes
use
sense.
every module that we can. Um, yeah, I didn't want to be in the middle of the audit and have half in one system and half in another. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's hard.
yeah. Um, so end of 24, we really got into it and just been, growing with each module as we can, as fast as we can.
That's fantastic. I love it. And how many folks did you have at the end of 24
I believe there was
approximately?
only 3 of us when we started.
Okay, so
3
25 was a big hiring year.
Yeah, yeah, there was 3 or 4 of us maybe. Um, so that was kinda nice as well, starting it so early in our process because we were able to just use the system that's kinda laid out and grow our business into that opposed to, like, having all of these other systems and stuff in place that now you have to get people to not use or change what they do. Um,
Mm. Yeah, that's very true. When people are set in their ways and used to other things for potentially years prior, that does make it harder to change. People don't like
yeah,
when their cheese gets moved.
yeah. But I will say, one, with all of us being younger and all of us coming from a larger manufacturing background, like technology, everybody understands that's the way to go, and the paper routers and things aren't going to be here 10 years
Hmm.
from now. Um,
Right.
so I've heard obviously on a lot of your podcasts pushback from people that have been in the industry and they don't want to make changes. I fortunately did not have to deal with any of that. Everybody on the team is, 100% into the technology and using computers and doing everything digitally. So that's been
Hmm.
an easy transition for us.
Yeah, that's more evidence that you chose well with your team. That's fantastic. So maybe once, well, I mean, that kinda covers some of the things, how was the adoption with the team? So it sounds like they as soon as you told them kinda, well, many of them sounds like got hired once you already had ProShop in place, so they just showed up and that's what the system was. Any feedback from them on, what they used to do as a machinist in other places and how they dealt with paper travelers or work instructions or anything like that?
um, I can definitely say from previous experience from me and the other guys that not any other system that any of us have used has everything all in one. You go here to clock in, you go to another system to do your inspection. Oh, now you got to do reading. Now you got to go to another system to find your training, and then you got to go, a fourth system to do your ordering. Um, just being able to click on a router, or a work order and then go directly to the bill of materials and pull up the cert, um,
Mhm.
and see your training all in one system has definitely been, something that everybody embraces.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like machinists like to do machining. They like to get into their setups. They like to do them efficiently. They don't like having to look a ton of different places to get the information they need to do their jobs efficiently. So that's great when your team is aligned on that.
Yeah, and just putting all of the information into the part, file with pictures and setup information and tooling, like having it all in one spot is just great.
Hmm. Do you do more repeat work or a lot of high mix work, or what's your work balance like?
So we're getting more into repeat work. I would say the first couple years, we had a decent amount of jobs that would repeat, but we also had a lot of jobs that didn't.
Hmm.
That is definitely shifting more and more as we get into the medical and aerospace stuff deeper. Um,
Hmm.
so obviously you see that, um, the benefits of documenting everything on the repeat stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Many shops want to move to higher volume repeat work, and many shops don't have success doing that. What do you think you've done to, to move that direction and have your clients want to order those types of parts from you?
Yeah, um, I think it's kind of also in what you're like used to, right? So all of us have that kind of not extremely high production, but not necessarily onesie twosie stuff too. Like we'll
Hmm.
do the onesie twosie stuff, but it's not all we do. Like a lot of shops, that's what they specialize in, and they're very fast at it. And
Hmm.
that's maybe not our 100% niche. Like we
Right.
can do it, but the and also like the millions of parts is not necessarily our niche either.
Hmm.
But the stuff that repeats and might be 50 to 100 pieces, or some of our stuff is 15 to 20,000 pieces a year.
Hmm.
That's really where we're kind of set up to be. So not necessarily, uh, you know, bust out a million of them as fast as you can,
Sure.
um, and not necessarily the fastest at a one or two part off design.
How did you know how to price that kind of work, and how does ProShop help you with your quoting?
Um, so I did some quoting stuff in the past as well. So I've had a decent background on at least looking over what was quoted and like
Hmm.
approving or not. Um, but when we started with ProShop, we were, and I forget the terminology that you guys use, but we were using like the one price based
The
system,
101 method,
and then now we're using whatever the other method is that you guys call it, where we have
301.
yeah, so we have different uh, price structures in for different machines and different
Yep.
employees, and then obviously dropping your labor percentage for run has
Hmm.
all been extremely helpful. Um, I
Nice.
definitely you can definitely see the price differences by using that, with
Hmm.
especially with the higher running stuff, when you can lower um, your percentages for run opposed to setup. And in the
Yep.
beginning, when we were just doing the single based pricing, we couldn't really see why we were so off certain times.
Mm.
And a lot of
You'd get feedback from your customers that you were off.
yes, and a lot of it comes down to that percentage of labor cost when something's just running in that higher production stuff.
That's awesome. Very cool. Glad to hear that. Um, any other sort of big changes when you move from your spreadsheets to ProShop that got better, got easier? I don't know, on time delivery or anything else? Any metrics?
Definitely the visibility, right, of being able to see your on time delivery and being able to let a customer know ahead of time before there's a problem, because
Hmm.
you can see it. um,
Yep.
that's a big change. And then just how everything's organized at the end of a job. It used to take me hours to get all the certifications together and do the
Hmm.
inspection reports, and that one click of a button for the job file at the end is a lifesaver for my time, for like the doc package at the end.
Hmm.
That used to take hours for me to put that stuff together. And if you follow the system, and when the material comes in, somebody puts the cert where it's supposed to be, and everybody does their inspections. If you just follow it, it's
Yeah.
a 10-second thing opposed to 3 hours, accumulating everything.
I'm glad we're saving you that time. That's not value added time for anybody. So, speaking of certs and quality and all that, let's talk a little bit about the certifications and kind of what you've decided to pursue and do and what's happened as a result of that.
Yeah, so we did our ISO 9001 almost right off the bat. Even the couple customers that we had, you know, w- would do work with us as long as we were in process of getting our ISO 9001. um, but then I definitely hit a wall of what I could quote and couldn't quote without being AS 9100 or ISO 13485.
Hmm.
And then with the background and the way that I want the business to go, those are, must haves to go into that business.
Yeah.
Um, so we were doing some aerospace work that required ISO 9001, but they would prefer AS 9100 and mentioned that, they could give us more opportunities to quote things if we had a higher certification. Um, Originally, I think I probably would have went for 13485 first, just because of my background. Um, but since we had work from that customer and there was growth there, we went for the AS 9100 first. Um, so we purchased, I guess I didn't mention that either. After the first couple months, I realized I made a big mistake in not buying the Flying Start package. Um,
Okay.
so originally, I guess I thought, all right, well, I'm ISO 9001. I'm just going to take my quality manual and my procedures and I'm going to put them into ProShop. And, you know, that's not going to be a big deal. And you can do all that. That's fine. But as I started clicking through the different modules and realizing all the links and everything that you guys have in the Flying Start package, that just
Hmm.
makes everything so much easier. I went back and purchased the Flying Start package, and then we're on our second year now of continuing the quality package that we have.
Hmm.
Somebody able to be there to help us. Um,
Awesome.
so we were assigned Jess to help us, who has been outstanding.
This is awesome. Yep.
Nothing but great things to say about him, and always willing to help. Um, so he helped us through the AS 9100 process.
Hmm.
And then the next week, we started our ISO 13485. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Right away.
yeah. So I think from the time we started AS 9100 to certification of ISO 13485 was maybe 8 months for the two of them.
Okay. Yep.
And honestly, a lot of that was because it took so long to schedule the AS 9100 audit
Mm. Oh, yeah.
to find somebody to come in.
Interesting.
Um,
If you hadn't had that constraint, what time frame do you think it would have been in?
maybe 6 months, maybe five or
It's pretty
six
good
months.
for both of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and during that time is when we brought on Shane, who was able, like I mentioned before, able to help us with documenting and getting all that stuff going. Um, so we really just put a big push, like we're getting this done as fast as we can, and it's going to allow him to, go out and sell more. Um, so I think it was October we had our AS 9100 audit, which went great, and the auditor loved the system. Um, she actually mentioned that she was going to share it with a couple other companies that she had just gone through that were saying they need to update their systems.
Right.
Um, and she had said like she's never seen a system that has everything all in one. And same type of thing with the ISO 13485, but um, the AS9100 auditor, made comments about how generally when she asks for something, somebody has to get up and go find it. And we just sat in the conference room in front of our TV and just clicked, clicked, clicked. And it was like, this
Yeah.
is scheduled for 2 days. And it's like, it's going to be faster than that because we can just click right through everything.
Yeah. That is the feedback. I love it. And it feels good when you're in that position and you're just sort of wowing the auditor, and
Absolutely.
it's a great spot. I love it.
A-
Awesome.
and the ISO 13485 went just as smooth as well. And
Different auditor?
different auditor, yep, completely
Okay.
different auditor. Um, and he was also, very impressed with the system. Um, and he made some type of comment about like, if you just follow the system, you're always ready for an audit. And I like laughed and kind of put your line out there that, yeah, the system's audit ready all the time, like it's
Yeah,
it's like kind of what you guys strive towards. So
absolutely. Well, that's great to have him reinforcing that from his own perspective, that that's what he was seeing, and good for you for, having doing that prep so well and having everything just right there. One thing I always, make sure to mention, like, ProShop is a tool, but you can use a tool completely ineffectively if
yeah,
try to use a hammer as a wrench or a wrench as a hammer. But so, kudos to your team for doing that well.
yeah, and I'll definitely say like this audit cycle, because we were getting ready. Obviously, it was a lot of prep and everything, but next year and the year after, like as long as we just follow the system, there's not going to be that scramble that everybody's always into. We have an audit in a week. Like, let's make sure everything's, checked off and everything's good. Well, if you did it all as you were making the parts and shipping the parts, then you really have almost nothing to do before the audit.
And that's the strongest, safest way to run your company anyway. So there's no reason not to do it that way. Cool. And what happened after you got your 1345?
Yeah. So we had been working on a major implant project that, you know, needed 13485 to get the order. And it was the next day after that, we received the order for this medical implant assembly that is going to really propel us to the next level.
The day after the audit, you got the
It,
PO?
so the day after the audit, we were told that we were going to get it,
Okay.
and then we actually officially got it after working out terms and everything, maybe like a week after. But um, it was definitely a big sigh of relief, and you know, s- pushed us to like we made the right decision in doing this.
Hmm. And you clearly were telling your customer, "Hey, we have our cert coming up. We have the audit. Now we just passed it." And
Yes,
they were just sort of there ready to trigger that order, it sounds like.
yeah. They were only willing to like continue the conversations that we were having by showing them, this is the date we're going to be, you know, certified by.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, as we were talking pricing and quoting and stuff, we kept updating them. You know, uh, we have the person scheduled for this date. We're, through this. We have an implementation specialist, and we're
Mhm.
88% done. Our plan that you guys tracked with us every week. So we would use that tool that Jess would update on the board
Mhm.
to kind of let them know, yeah, 2 weeks ago we were at 60%, now we're at 70%. And, they like to see that progression and know where we were going.
So that, I mean, that's very cool, but that also adds some pressure, right? Like, you're telling your customer this, you hope Jess is steering you right, you hope ProShop's gonna be robust enough, and, like, if you came to them the day after, be like, "Oh, we failed the audit," like, that would
Yeah.
be a bad look.
Yeah. Although I, I, I think the way everything's laid out, like, it was stressful, but I never really had a concern like this wasn't going to go well. Maybe there would be a finding or something, but
Hmm.
both audits we had zero nonconformances. Um,
Congratulations.
so that, I mean, is also shows the system, and if you follow it, that you know everything is set up to not have any
Hmm.
nonconformances.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And just give us some scale of the size of that order compared to your previous, I don't know, annual revenue or whatnot.
Yeah, so it was about what we did in the previous year's sales.
So it was
Yeah.
it's like almost doubling overnight of,
Yeah,
yeah.
and,
Wow.
there's definitely
Congratulations.
plenty more, um, to come with the ISO 1345 in the medical field.
Okay. Well, so that is such a great story. Thank you for sharing it and congratulations and well done. So, had you I mean, clearly you were in deep conversations with this customer of yours. Had you had them to your shop and shown them, the company, the system, and, any feedback just from customers in general that you might have shown ProShop to and kind of what you're building there?
Yeah, so, this specific customer has not been to our shop yet,
Okay.
which, is we'd love to have them in here, and we plan to do that. Um, the biggest thing it seemed like with them was just being organized and always responsive. Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's one thing that we always try and strive to do is at least just answer, whether it's a good answer or a bad answer, at least just answer. Um,
Mhm.
and I guess that's kind of what maybe steps us out from some other companies with the size that we are. Because like, you send an email to a big company and then it's got to go to somebody else and it takes 3 days to answer. Where, like, you know, email comes through, we're right there, right on it as fast as we can. Um, but I will say, other customers that have came in here, we've shown ProShop to, and they've all been extremely impressed with the system. And some of them have made comments of, "This is nicer than what we use." So
That was the feedback we first got back in 2008 when our biggest machining customer came and worked at our shop. And he was like, "Wow, this is better than what we run our company on."
Mhm.
And that was that was whatever, uh, 18 years ago. So that's too funny.
But I definitely
Um,
do use
yeah,
it as like a sales tool as well when customers do come in. Um, you know, a part of my shop tour is showing them the system in the conference room. And then when
mhm,
we're walking around the floor, showing them the two monitors and, the same system we were
mm,
looking at in there. You pull it up here, you do your inspections, you have your drawings, everything's, you know, um, so it's definitely a big part of my sales shtick as I walk people through
nice. You mentioned 2 monitors. You've standardized on double monitors at each machine?
at every machine. Yes.
Okay, nice. And the actual hardware, the computers you're using, are they just like a micro PC or what are
Yeah.
you
Yep.
using?
Just a micro PC. Yep.
Okay, perfect. And what do you use to actually physically label your jobs?
Just stickers. We have
Okay,
like label makers. So
right.
every job bin has the label with the work order on it,
Nice.
and then
Okay.
obviously you can easily find everything else as long as you know the work order number in the system.
Mhm. Right. Okay. And, do you have any people that use a tablet or a laptop or something where they're more mobile, or is it all the permanent fixed stations at each machine?
Um, right now it's the permanent fixed station. So
Mhm. Of
um, like the programmers have their own desks with their own computers, and then
course.
at each machine we have the dual monitor setup. I was messing around with the tablets and stuff at first,
Mhm.
but then I kind of got away from it and just went back
Mhm.
to the PC just for being able to have access to all the drives and everything. Where like on the tablet, sometimes
Right.
you can't save something or so.
Yeah.
It was just better for us to have full access to everything at all times.
Okay. And are you using the full I asked this question, it's not on our normal list, but the full file structure with, like, storing G code in the G code folder and
Mhm.
CMM programs in the CMM folder and, like,
Yep.
just, like, the full architecture? You're
Yep.
using that?
Yep. Yeah, everything
Nice.
everything goes in the K drive. Um, we really don't, like, use any other system besides email and
Mhm.
ProShop, and then, the only other system, is just for, like, the auto ballooning, which, I'm excited
Mhm.
to see how that's gonna change in the future,
Mhm. Yeah.
because then we really would be down to, like, a CAM software, a CMM software, ProShop, and email. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and actually, we can mention it because when this comes out, we will have already made our public announcement. But yeah, so ground control will be sort of embedded right into ProShop, and you'll be able to get ground control when you get ProShop. We can, provide it, and it'll be a super seamless integration where spawn the drawing, bubble it, suck it right into each operation where you're going to do those checks, and yeah, we're really excited about how that's just going to improve the workflow for everyone that needs to balloon drawings, which is most shops these days.
Yeah, and even for jobs that we don't have to do that, we just do it anyway
Do it
because
anyway.
it makes it so much easier for inspection and,
Absolutely.
QA at the end, even NCRs, right? Like, just knowing
Sure.
that exact dimension that you're talking about, so
Yeah. Yeah, that standard is, I mean, when the cost to do it is low enough and the standardization just makes it so seamless from then on out, yeah, I completely agree. There's no reason to do things a different way, Back in the back in our old shop days, we did exactly that as well. We would tag, and you probably have seen it in ProShop. If you have a customer that's aerospace, you can specify that on their contact page, and it puts a little AS next to their
Mhm.
name, just so people know. But that's probably more for audit purposes than anything else. And we just would, yeah, we would follow the same exact thing. We'd balloon it. We'd do a first article. We'd, do our in-process inspection. We'd do the NCRs. We'd just standardize it all. And because the transactional cost of creating those things was so low, the benefits far outweighed any cost of doing ballooning or making the FAI or whatever.
Yeah, and there's very few jobs that come through that we don't do that entire process because, then you get into well, I didn't think it was I didn't think it needed to have this, level of inspection or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, just doing the same system on every part just takes all that, mess out of it.
Nice, nice, good. So early on, you said that you had used some other systems and then had researched a bunch of different ERPs. What advice would you give to a shop owner that is starting or in the middle of some research? Based on what you had learned in your research.
Yeah, I would say, obviously it depends on the business that you're in, right?
Hmm.
Um, but what I found, like I believe I said earlier, was ProShop was just so designed for this type of business. And I have not found a different ERP system that is specifically tied to, the CNC manufacturing world.
Hmm.
Um, and it really is kind of just like a playbook on how to run a business opposed to just an ERP software. Um,
Mm.
and even though I did it pretty quick, I would say the sooner you do it, the better because there's less that you have to go back and redo later, right? So I went back and forth on, well, maybe I can wait another year to do it, but
Hmm.
The more and more you think about that, it's just that's the more and more stuff and systems that you're putting in place that you're just gonna change anyway.
Sure, sure. Do you feel like, I guess with that in mind, if you did it as a very young company, that the obviously the cost of ProShop would still be well worth the investment of efficiencies and whatever else that you would not have to, create by hand, create manually?
I wish I would have done it. I know, like, some people, have said, like, they bought ProShop before they even opened their, doors or got their first machine. Um, I wish I would have done it sooner, even like I said, even though I did it fairly quick,
Hmm.
um, we're still getting jobs that are in the old system. And
Mm.
then I had to go into the old system and find what we did and piece all that together and then make it in ProShop where, had I done it right from the start, I definitely would be in a better spot, but live and
Very
learn, right?
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So with obviously you've had massive success with medical. Have you gotten more aerospace work, and is any of that defense related or just more commercial aerospace?
More commercial aerospace.
Okay.
So we want to get more into the defense. So currently we're looking into, the ITAR, NIST, CMMC stuff.
Yep.
Um, and that's going to be a big push for us towards the end of the year. Um,
Nice. Okay.
but the with the connections and customers that we have in the medical space right now, um, we're trying to grow that first and then hit more of the aerospace towards the
Hmm.
end of the year. Obviously we want to diversify as much as we can, you know, in case something happens and you know,
Sure.
um, but right now we're heavily marketed more towards medical.
I've heard many people uh, theorize or guess that cybersecurity is going to be, and maybe not CMMC exactly, but a more mature cybersecurity posture is going to be required for every industry out there. When you were talking to your medical clients, do they ask you about your cybersecurity?
It does not come up that much in medical. um, but
So they don't
definitely,
care if their designs get hacked or anything
yeah,
like that.
but definitely every single aerospace company, whether defense or not, that you
Hmm.
talk to, that is one of the first things that is always brought up.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing it will just be a matter of time. Every OEM out there wants their data secure with their vendors that have a lot of their proprietary drawings and models and things like that. So it's good that you're planning to do that, and we'll have a system that can support probably whatever they throw at you. So that's good. Maybe as we just reflect and start to wrap up here, I'd love for you to share what you think some of your of any kind, your sort of best strategic moves as you've grown your business have been.
Um, well, definitely, purchasing ProShop and getting everything, using it as much as we can, not just purchasing it and only using it for scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
That was massive for the audits and, certifications are the way you grow. Customers don't want to do work with people that don't have certifications. Um, and then bringing on um, the VP of sales to help.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That definitely was something I probably should have done sooner.
Yeah, I completely agree. You've probably heard me say uh, back in the Pro CNC days when after 9/11 and our work just fell off a cliff, we really got schooled and learned the hard way that we had to be a sales and marketing driven organization. And from that day forward, we were, and kind of like you, we, well, in the earliest days, like, I just spent more of my time on sales since I had business partners that could kind of run operations. But ultimately, we did hire salespeople and we had separate estimators and, um, but, we made sure that that department was fully staffed, and had all the resources they needed to go out and sell our services and be responsive to the market. And I know that made a difference, to us. Uh, and, you know, there's and I'm sure, if you're at all active on LinkedIn, and are sort of tied into the machining community, you sometimes see people share about whether they're busy or not busy, or, and sometimes you hear these posts that are like, "Hey, we're on like we're on a path to bankruptcy. Like, we don't have any work." And when I go and like click in and sort of look at some of these businesses, they don't have certifications, and their their website is really old and kind of antiquated. And I wish I could, I don't know, instill that it's so critical to do the kinds of things that you've been doing if you want your business to grow. And clearly, the percentages of growth you're seeing are, maybe proof that that's been effective. So,
Yeah, and, like, I think the biggest thing for me besides all that was, when you get a big order and you're just busy working on the parts on the floor and programming and setting up, you're not actively selling, and then
mhm.
once that job comes to an end, then you're scrambling, to find something else, you know? So,
Yes.
having somebody
That's
dedicated to that, that's looking into the pipeline as you're working on the pipeline,
mhm.
is huge.
Yeah, that's that feast and famine cycle that my shop went through way too many times before we learned that lesson. So, yeah. All right, just a couple last questions. If you could imagine what your shop would look like today if you had not decided to get ProShop and you were still on your spreadsheets, what do you think it would be like?
Definitely a lot less organized. Um, the organization, not even just within the system, but what it forces you to, like, organize everywhere else just to follow the system,
Mm,
is huge, and there would definitely have to be more people just managing all the paperwork and stuff where, um, I could definitely see even just at our size needing 2 or 3 people just to manage our old system within the spreadsheets and folders and everything that we had previously. So
Do you f- do you feel like you could have gotten AS and 1345 on your spreadsheets?
it I it would have been tough. It definitely would have been tough. I would definitely say that there probably would have been some findings, because, it if you follow, like we we're talking about before, if you follow everything through the system, when you go to ship those parts, you're gonna see that there's not a cert, or you're gonna see that inspections aren't done, or, that something came back and didn't get an incoming inspection. That's all extremely easy to miss when you have 12 different folders and 5 different spreadsheets making sure everything's checked off.
Hmm.
Um, so I definitely think there would be findings for sure.
Hmm. Okay. So, if you had to have a couple of other people just to kind of keep the old system running, that's a way I suppose you could back into an ROI with ProShop. The subscription cost versus throwing labor at it and whatever else. Have you ever tried to calculate what your return on ProShop has been?
I don't have an ROI, but I definitely would say the the price for the employees that you would have to hire just to do what the system does for you is probably 3 to 4 times more what we're paying in a year. And
Hmm.
that's, every year then as well.
Sure, sure, sure. Okay. Well, Christian, first of all, thanks for getting on this show with me and sharing all that. Congratulations on your success and good job on, using the system so effectively. Like I said, it's just a tool and not everyone uses that as effectively as you have. So I definitely want to make sure you're getting that kudos. Um, if people want to learn more about Rise Industries and maybe ask you to quote something, where would you send them?
Yeah, all of our information's on our website. So www.riseinds.com, and
That's
all
a
of
nice
our
short URL. Good.
yeah, yeah. It's not always easy to find one.
Yes. Yeah, we have another customer with Rise in as the first part of their name as well. So it's funny when you look at like how many shops have the word precision in their
Hmm.
name. I think we have like 60 plus companies or something crazy with precision something or other. Precision machine, precision industries, precision. But that is, we do precision work in this business. So I guess it's an apt name, but it is crowded. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, if you're listening to this and you want to connect with Chris, go to riseinds.com. Yeah, Chris, thank you again so much for the time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, take care.